Hi, my name is Amanda Lamond, and welcome to the first episode of Awakening Lawyers' Ascension Transmissions. It's quite a mouthful. I run a business called the Center for Integrative Law. I began my career as a lawyer, but through a very interesting, long, complicated journey, I have found myself at the point where I'm prepared to accept that I'm actually here to be a spiritual teacher. What is interesting about this is that I'm noticing all over the world there are thousands of us who are waking up and are realizing that we are here to be spiritual teachers. Now, this term can be quite laden for a lot of people because it's like, who, me, what, how? But really, if we simplify it, it's about wanting to bring people back home to themselves. It's about feeling this sense when you get through all the layers in the programming that actually what I'm here to do is help people connect to themselves. And so there are many terms for people who are such spiritual teachers at this time in our civilization, and right now often they're referred to as light workers. And you'll find them in every profession. So whether it's people who are in the medical profession or who have gone into psychology or who are even in the fashion industry or home design or any form of coaching or helping people even to run their businesses differently. But some people are doing those things in a way that helps bring their clients, those that they are serving, back home to themselves. And by that expression, I mean away from the thought that we are this ego, this persona, this identity that we have created in order to be here on planet Earth, and to a deeper place of knowing this place underneath that personality or identity, the soul, the real self, the essence of who we are. In the law, there are obviously, because it's happening across the world, everywhere, in every single corner, there are a lot of lawyers who are awakening too, who are realizing that they've been programmed by a fairly dysfunctional and toxic programming of how law is supposed to look, what the legal profession is about, and going, wait, hold on, this is not what I signed up for. And when we start thinking that, it's actually our soul speaking through us in terms of your life path, going, it's not what I came to Earth to do. So we're in this really radical time right now. And because I've been coaching all of my clients to really figure out what it is you're here to do, and I help them do that, in other words, to listen to that soul guidance, and then act it out, then live in the world who you are here to be. And it takes so much courage because you are going through layers and layers of programming of who you thought you should be, who your family, who society, your school, your university, or your jobs and your bosses, who everybody thought you should be. And underneath all those layers is the still small voice that goes, but this is who I came here to be. And that will always be the thing that lights you up. That's the guidance. That's the little sign that this is what you're meant to do. So because I've been coaching so many other people of how to shine their light and get onto this path of doing what you need to be doing, because the world needs us at this time. We didn't just incarnate to have jobs, to just like pay the bills and struggle every month to survive. That's not it. We've been programmed into the scarcity mentality and into a world with all sorts of dysfunction that I'm not going to go into in this video. But we each have a part to play. Sometimes we get obsessed with going, what's my purpose? And can get very caught up in that. Because if we look at it one way, our only true purpose is to hold a very high vibration. So to be love, to love others, to not stand in judgment, and literally just to be a channel, being the true spirit that you came here to be, that you are. And it's so funny to me when people say things like, well, I'm not a spiritual person. It's like, you are a spirit. So either you're going to embrace that and figure out what that means, but there's not really an option to go, I'm not spiritual, because you are a spiritual being who's currently having a human experience. You can choose, because there's free will, to go, nope, I'm only going to embrace the human part of this journey. But as everyone will find who tries to do that, huge suffering is created because you don't know the true nature of who you are. So to jump back to what I was saying, our true purpose here is to realize and embody love. But along the way, some of us have been given specific assignments in this lifetime, and particularly I think in this one, because we're in this extraordinary period of change. So we've got a specific task within the 8 billion, if you look at the people, within the 8 billion roles that people are here to do. Some of us have a more specific task. And so for lawyers who are awakening and are realizing they feel called to do something, those are the people that I'm here to serve. Because I've spent so much time helping clients find their path and purpose, I have realized I need to be very true to my own teachings, which is encountering any of the resistance of my own ego and then doing it anyway. And what I've been called to do is to share these Ascension Transmission teachings with you. So what that's going to look like is I am a channel, I'm a medium, some people call it, and I receive messages from some of the beautiful, extraordinary spiritual guides that we have looking after the earth at this time. And I work with numerous guides. There are probably about 10 of them that I can name. We all have guides. So I will talk about spiritual guides in another specific episode because there's so many people who are curious. What I will say is that if you were raised in any indigenous society anywhere on the planet at this time, you would know that we have spiritual guides. So whether you look at the Inuit people or the Aborigines in Australia or North American First Nations or African tribes people, wherever you look in the world, if you look at what these are also known as the root races, there is a deep contact with the spiritual world. There is an understanding that we don't own the earth. We are here merely to enjoy the experience of it, to be the guardians of this planet, and that we are surrounded by many beings, many of whom we don't get to see. This understanding and connection to creation. And in the modern, mostly Western world, we've cut off from that. But let's just say in modern civilization, we've completely cut off from this knowing that we are connected to source and creation, that we are guardians of the earth. It's not just a resource for us to use and plunder. So we have been, most of us, and if you're watching this, I'm presuming that you are likely to have been from the same modern civilization that I come from. We've been programmed to not understand that there is this greater source, that there's this creation, and that we all have guides. When you realize that, it's possible to see that we're the crazy ones. Instead, we've been programmed to believe that the people who are talking to spirit guides, like they're the woo-woo weird ones. They're the ones who are a little bit off the reservation, so to speak, because they're having all this communication. But actually, we are the ones who are weird if we've been cut off from that, because it's a normal and inevitable part of life, and society throughout the ages has always been connected to the spiritual realm. So that has put things in perspective for me. It was obviously quite a process to, in my own life, embrace that I was receiving these messages when I began my career as a lawyer, and did not come from a family who were hanging up crystals and talking to their spiritual guides. So that's been an unfolding. But what has come to me is that I am here to talk very publicly and openly, and sometimes, I guess with some shame or embarrassment, about this path in order to help others who are on that same journey. And because I was a lawyer, I understand some of the implications of moving towards a life that embraces your soul and your spiritual purpose, which means moving away from some of the fairly rigidly held doctrines and dogmas of being a lawyer. We are in the middle of the most extraordinary time on planet Earth. It is referred to sometimes as the Great Shift or the Great Awakening, and whether you want to embrace this or not, it is happening. We are in the thick of it. And right now, it's 2022, and the world is in this complete state of what looks like chaos as people are wrestling with everything inside them, and the world as a collective is wrestling outside. We're looking at, are we on the brink of world war? There's Russia, a big war going on between Russia and Ukraine. We have this extraordinary sort of erosion of democracy and rights that's happening. We have in America, some people say it looks like it's in free fall where we've got a two-party system, but both are getting to a level of insanity and attacking each other, the likes of which have not been seen before. So, and then we have this huge, quite strange rise of the transhumanism movement and moving us into a digital future, a metaverse, being microchipped and things going, and QR codes everywhere, and things going in a direction that many of us feel is kind of anti the human spirit. And that some of that is done under the guise of let's embrace technology, but there's also a point at which it seems to be crossing over into territory that makes some of us uncomfortable. Do we want to be machines? So it is an extraordinary time to be alive. What is happening is that we are in the middle of what is known as the ascension process. And I'm going to record some further episodes where I talk specifically about what this is, because we're still trying to get a handle on it, because the earth has not ascended before. So none of us can look back at history or books and go, this is what it's about. For this reason, a lot of the knowledge that people who are sharing about the ascension, a lot of the knowledge we receive is from beings who are not here on the planet at this time. Now, again, that's a huge leap in logic for many people to make, to understand that there are thousands, millions of beings who are communicating with us and helping us understand what is going on. And so if you are a channel, you may have received some of this communication, but just know that the veil between this third dimension that we currently inhabit and all the higher veils the higher realms is getting thinner and thinner. So it's getting easier and easier for us to receive that guidance from our spiritual guides, who we all have. Why is this so important for lawyers? Well, one, there are a huge number of lawyers in the world, and just like everybody else, we are in the middle of this ascension process, and so we need to do our own work to understand what this is about. But there's another reason, and that is that lawyers play a very significant role in helping people in the ascension process. Because what ascension is moving from an understanding, any spiritual evolution is moving from the understanding and belief that I am an ego and that I'm a body. This is who I am. I am trapped inside here looking out through these eyes. And I am, you hurt my feelings. I see myself as this identity that I've built up. So, for example, I live in this area. I am this, I'm a lawyer. I'm this profession. I am married, not married. I'm gay, straight, whatever. I have this many children. We are obsessed and over-identified with this persona that we've created for ourselves throughout our lifetimes here on earth. But that's not who we are. On another level, we exist in multiple dimensions at the same time. It's a hard concept to get your mind wrapped around when you've thought there is only one. We came here from light. We came here from the one source of all creation. And a lot of people, that part they kind of understand. So we incarnated, we came to earth, and you get given this bodysuit, and you then create during your life here this persona or identity. But that isn't who you are. Because when you die, that consciousness doesn't go, it continues. It's just that you no longer have this body. So the journey of consciousness is realizing I'm not my mind, I'm not my body, I am pure consciousness. I am an aspect, I am one fragment of the divine that has incarnated into a human body here in this dimension on the planet Earth to experience itself. That's a trippy concept. So this disidentification with the ego is very, very important, realizing that who I am is not the personality that I've created for myself. Now, why this is so important for lawyers is because the entire legal system is built on an understanding that people are their egos and people are their bodies. So as we ascend as a civilization, the whole planet, and start to wake up to this realization that I'm not my body and I'm not my ego, I am pure spirit, pure consciousness having a human experience, it has to, by necessity, change how we deal with our relationships with each other. At the moment, we project everything outwards because we don't have a true understanding that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Whatever we are feeling, so let me jump back a step. What happens is we have these beliefs and programs running. all this programming since we were born. So the families that we are raised in, the beliefs, for example, that we pick up around money or how you treat other people or races or whatever. We have millions and millions of beliefs which are all being programmed and into us. And we then are, because of the way the ego works, it is like a massive filter through which all experience is coming. So none of us are seeing the world or other people as they are. We are only experiencing everything here on planet Earth through this filter that we've been given through the years, this filter that we've developed. And so that gives us a very skewed perception. And that is, we are getting triggered by things because they relate to things, moments in our past. Some part of that program or wounding is triggered by a current experience, not because of that current experience or anything that is happening here, but because of the past. We then have all sorts of emotions about that, and we then react. So when we start to see through this, it's an illusion. The person who's attacking us is attacking the ego, not us. The wounding that we are feeling, this trigger, this anger, is because of a past program. We spend very little time here in this actual moment. So we realize everything is coming through a filter all the time. When one reaches this level of understanding, you have to look at a court system and this idea that we are searching for truth, because how possible is that when everybody has these filters? We talk about not using emotions, and relying only on what is true and on logic. But when you start to see through the mind, the programs that we all have running, it has to fundamentally shift how we're going to approach the next legal system. So already there are thousands and millions of people waking up and going, the legal system is broken. But not just the legal system. We're looking at all of our current systems, the medical and education and food and you name it. We're looking, the agricultural system. We're looking at our systems and going, wait, hold on. The systems we've somehow ended up with, these ones we've created, don't serve humanity. We need new systems. And this is part of what we're dealing with right now, this massive awakening, which is happening inside us and outside us. But it only starts within, because what we experience in the outside world is always a projection. Nothing can exist in form in the external world unless it exists in consciousness first. And I'm going to discuss that in other videos, because it's a deep, and there's a lot to say about that. For now, in this first video, all I really want to capture is that we're in the middle of the most extraordinary spiritual awakening that this planet has ever known. Whether you like it or not, we're in it. Most of us have been raised in conditions that haven't taught us about what is going on now. It's not necessarily spoken about in the churches that you're part of. It's not spoken about at schools or in business place. So unless you have had the opportunity and listened to the calling in your own soul to go and learn about this, you may be somewhat in the dark, and that's scary. You may think that you alone are going through this massive crisis when actually it's a collective crisis. You may think the world's gone mad. When we look at the news, it certainly seems like that. But when you start having an understanding of the ascension process, things just start falling into place in your mind. And all of the personal crises that you may be going through, which I will share more about, you will have a framework for understanding them and realizing it's not personal. And that can be a very exciting journey when you're on it consciously. It's almost like, I'm trying to think, if you go on a holiday and you kind of, that you're going on the holiday, you can plan it, and, there will be mishaps and you lose luggage or you have some scary experience. I've been on holidays that are, there's stuff that's gone off the rails, but you know what you're up for. Whereas if you had a blindfold put on and you just found yourself in a car on the way to the airport, imagine now you're in your plane and you don't know where you're going, it could be absolutely terrifying. So without any map for what's going on, we just feel like we are adrift down here. What the hell is happening? And my intention with making the series is to go, okay, I'm going to share with you what's going on for me, because that's part of what I've been instructed to do at this time of being on Earth. My personal path through human design, and I'll talk about human design, is very specifically to share what I am going through, particularly the suffering and the conclusions I've reached to help other people. And I will explain more about how you can discover your human design and your path. and to help provide through the extraordinary spiritual guides that I work with, and then a lot of the channeled reading that I look at, and the many spiritual teachers that I absorb from, the ascended masters, to help give you some framework to understand what's going on now. And the greater purpose in all of that is to help bring you home to yourself, to help you in this journey from the ego self to the soul self with less suffering along the way, so that you can shine your light and do what you came here to do, and do it in a state of greater ease and bliss and awareness than the way most of us are currently doing it, which is pretty much alone and trying to figure things out. So that's enough for the introduction. There is so much more to say. This is not scripted. It can't be, because I know that I will be guided in every moment. It's a new way of living and working when you know that the intuition is going to come through you, and that it is not about how do I script this, how do I struct this, how is this going to land, what are those sources, how many people can I quote to look really intelligent. So even showing up in this way means I have to overcome all of the legal lawyer programming that I have, which is told me, you could be wrong, you need to give evidence, what are people going to think, there's like a million programs going, but it's like breaking through all of those and just listening to the voice that says, this is what I'm here to do, to reach out to those who will find this, because it will be an energetic match. Some people won't know what I'm talking about, and that's perfectly okay. But this will find those for whom it is an energetic match, and together we will journey through the next couple of years, I'm hoping, so that I can support you with a deeper understanding of what is going on here. So the Awakening Lawyer Ascension Transmissions is going to be the project that is closest to my heart, and I want to make sure that at all times I am here to serve you. So any feedback that you can give me, any comments, I didn't understand this bit, can you talk more about this, I'm experiencing this and trying to make sense of it, that's what's going to help make this a collaboration, so that it's not a one-sided thing. I will do my best to meet your needs and serve you, and I ask only that you come with your full vulnerable self about what's going on for you, so that we can do this together. It is such an extraordinary gift to be on the planet at this time, but it's also hard. And it is much, much harder if we're not doing it in community and when there's absolutely no map or understanding of the territory. And for that reason, there are a lot of people choosing to leave the planet at this time. A lot of people ending their lives early, their accidents and illness and sicknesses. There are people who are going, this is too much. And so if you're in a state of overwhelm, take a deep breath right now. Overwhelm tends to happen when we're not in this moment. We are worrying about the future, or our minds are preoccupied with the past. But right now, a lot of it is preoccupation with the future. So whenever you feel yourself completely overwhelmed, bring yourself back to this moment. And I'm going to do my best to provide whatever guidance I can to help bring some more love and more joy and more excitement and a deeper level of clarity to what's going on the planet at this time, but particularly for those lawyers who are awakening. Thank you for being here.